The cliffs of Iralis glowed beneath the twin suns, sharp, golden light touching the crystal stones that stretched above the ocean below. The waves shimmered blue and green, roaring as if the planet itself was alive. On the edge stood Lyra, the youngest daughter of House Seraph. Her silver hair floated in the warm wind, her violet eyes filled with fear. Behind her, armored alien guards shouted orders, their weapons aimed down toward her. She had broken no law, but her older sisters, the noble heirs of Seraph, had decided she was unworthy, a quiet rebellion punished by the old code. And that code was final. By the law of descent, the eldest sister, Vera, had said coldly, "The weak must fall so the strong may rise." Lyra's breath shook. The edge crumbled beneath her feet, and then she fell. The wind screamed past her ears as the cliffs blurred above. The sea rushed closer, cold, dark, endless. Her heart pounded, her last thought a whisper, "Is this how my story ends?" But it didn't. From the sky, a small metallic object streaked downward. Not a weapon, but a human escape pod. It cut through the clouds, metal glowing orange from entry. Inside was Elias Ward, a lone human explorer, crash landing after his ship had been damaged by a meteor storm. His pod sensors caught the falling life form just before impact. Humanoid, falling fast. He didn't think. He just moved. The pod slammed into the ocean with a thunderous splash, and before the spray settled, Elias had dived into the freezing waves. His lungs burned as he swam toward the faint figure sinking below the surface. Silver hair floated like threads of light. He reached her, wrapping an arm around her waist and kicking hard. The water was heavy, dragging them both down, but Elias's body fought. Strong, trained, desperate. When they finally broke the surface, Lyra's body was limp, her lips pale. "Come on," he gasped. "You're not dying on my watch." He pulled her toward the pod, climbing back inside and sealing it. The pod's automed unit word, scanning her body. Elias placed her gently on the seat, brushing wet hair from her face. She was alien, yes, but not monstrous. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light, almost translucent. "Vitals stabilizing," said the pod's voice. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. She stared at him in confusion. "You human?" Her voice was weak, musical. Elias smiled, exhausted but relieved. "Yeah, and you're welcome." For a moment, they simply looked at each other. She didn't understand why this creature, from a species her kind saw as lesser, had risked everything for her. And he didn't care what she was. She was alive. That was all that mattered. Outside, the ocean raged. Then, from above, a ship's shadow covered the water. Sleek and silver, it descended, House Serapha's royal cruiser. The moment Lyra saw it, her eyes widened in terror. "They come for me," she whispered. "And for you?" Elias frowned. "They? Who are?" The pod shook violently as energy beams struck the water around them. The cruiser's scanners had found them. Within seconds, the hatch was ripped open by alien guards in glimmering armor. They pointed energy lances at Elias. "Stand down, human." One hissed, "You are in violation of Seraph territory." Lyra sat up shouting, "No, he saved my life." "He's not." But her words were drowned out by Vera's voice as she stepped inside. The eldest sister's beauty was sharp, almost cruel. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, her presence commanding. "Well," she said softly, "the child survives, and the human who touched her lives too." Elias stood tall despite the weapons aimed at him. "Touched her? I saved her. You should be thanking me." Vera's lips curved into a cold smile. "By our law, what is touched by Seraph blood belongs to the Seraph line. Even you, human." Lyra's face paled. "Sister, please." "Silence," Vera snapped. "You have no authority here." Elias clenched his fists. "You've got some nerve calling that justice." Another figure appeared behind Vera, the second sister, Caliph, calm but no less dangerous. Her gaze traveled over Elias like he was a new kind of prize. "Strange," she murmured. "So small, yet he dives into death to save one of us. Perhaps he's worth keeping." "Keeping?" Elias repeated. "I'm not some pet." But the aliens didn't listen. Lyra tried to stand, reaching for him, but guards restrained her. "Don't take him," she cried. "He's innocent." Caliph smirked. "Under alien law, he's property now. The law gives us everything that touches our bloodline. You, little sister, were saved by him. That makes him ours." The guard seized Elias. He struggled, shouting, but their strength was far beyond human. Lyra screamed his name as the cruiser's door closed, sealing them inside. Outside, the ocean quieted. The human's pod sank slowly beneath the waves. Empty now. Inside the cruiser, Vera turned to her sister. "The younger will live," she said coldly. "But the human, he is mine." Kayla's smile was faint, dangerous. "We shall see." And as the stars stretched across the viewing glass, Elias Ward realized this was no rescue. It was the beginning of something much darker. The corridors of the Seraph Royal Cruiser glowed with a cold, silver light. The walls pulsed faintly as if alive, built from living crystal that hummed in rhythm with the ship's heart. Every sound echoed. Every movement was watched. Elias Ward walked between two alien guards, his wrists locked in glowing energy cuffs. They pulled him forward with silent precision, their armor reflecting the light in strange patterns. He had seen alien ships before, but never like this, never so clean, so elegant, so cruelly perfect. Lyra followed behind, her expression tight with guilt. "I told them you should be free," she whispered. "You saved me, but under the law of blood, my sisters." "I don't care about their law," Elias said sharply. His voice was steady but low. "You didn't ask to be born into it, and I didn't ask to be owned by anyone." The guard stopped in front of tall silver doors. They slid open with a hiss. Inside was a judgment hall, vast, circular, with golden light spilling from a skylight above. At the far end stood Vera, the eldest sister, draped in shimmering robes that looked woven from light. Beside her, Caliph leaned against a tall throne, her eyes following Elias like a predator studying prey. "Bring him forward," Vera commanded. The guards pushed Elias to his knees. He gritted his teeth, refusing to bow. Vera's gaze was cold and calm. "You trespassed on Seraph territory," she said. "You interfered in royal judgment, and you touched Seraph blood. These are crimes punishable by property claim or death." Elias met her eyes. "I didn't trespass. I crashed, and I didn't interfere. I saved your sister's life." Caliph tilted her head, smiling faintly. "He's bold for a human. They usually beg by now." "Let him go," Lyra pleaded. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "Please, Vera. He didn't mean harm." Vera turned slowly. "You speak out of turn, little sister. Have you forgotten your place?" Lyra didn't back down. "I remember who I am, but I also remember who saved me when my own blood tried to end me." The room fell silent. The guards exchanged uneasy looks. Vera's jaw tightened. "You dare accuse your family before the law?" Elias looked between them, then spoke softly. "Maybe your law needs changing." The words hit like a shockwave. Every guard stiffened. Kalitha's smile deepened, amused. "You question alien law?" she asked, walking closer, her voice like silk over steel. "You truly are reckless, human." Elias didn't move. "Call it reckless. I call it right." Kalis circled him slowly, studying his face. "You risked your life for one who isn't your kind," she said. "Why?" Elias turned his head slightly. "Because she needed help." Vera stepped down from her throne, her presence sharp and powerful. "You speak as if compassion excuses defiance. But compassion is weakness. The law exists to keep order, to remind the lesser of their place. Then your order is broken." Elias said. His voice didn't rise. It was calm, certain. "Because the strongest thing I've seen today is your sister. Standing up to you." The hall felt utterly silent again. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide, half in fear, half in awe. Vera's lips pressed into a thin line. "You dare speak so?" she said softly. "Then perhaps you will learn obedience another way." She gestured, and the guards yanked Elias up. Lyra rushed forward, shouting, "Stop, please." But Vera ignored her. Take him to the binding chamber, she ordered. If he wishes to defy law, he will feel it. As Elias was dragged away, Kalitha's eyes followed him thoughtfully. He's different, she murmured. There's power in him I don't understand. Vera didn't reply. Her gaze flicked toward Lyra. You'll stay confined until I decide your punishment, she said. Lyra's voice shook. You can't just... I can, Vera said sharply. And I will... Hours later, in the binding chamber, Elias stood before a tall crystalline device that glowed with soft red light. The guards forced him against it. Energy lines crawled across his skin like living lightning, scanning every cell, every thought. A voice echoed to the chamber. Cold, artificial, ancient, subject, human, status, claimed by House Seraph. Pain seared through his body as the crystal's light flared brighter. He clenched his teeth, refusing to scream. Then, something unexpected happened. The crystal flickered. The light dimmed. The system stuttered. Sparks flew. Elias fell to one knee, panting. The guard stepped back in confusion. Error, the machine voice said. Human physiology incompatible. Claim rejection. Kalith entered then, her eyes wide in fascination. Impossible, she whispered. The law's code never rejects. Elias forced himself to his feet, glaring at her. Guess your law finally met something it can't own. Kalitha's lips curved into a slow smile. Interesting, she said softly. Very interesting. She waved her hand, dismissing the guards. Leave us. When they were gone, she stepped closer, studying him. You are dangerous, Elias Ward, she murmured. The law bends around you. It does not know what you are. I'm just human, he said. Kalith tilted her head. No, you are something new, a challenge to the old order. Their eyes met, hers glowing faintly, his steady and human. For the first time, the distance between species seemed small. Far down the corridor, Lyra stood behind the glass. Watching, she had escaped her confinement with the help of a servant. Her heart pounded as she saw Kalith with him, and the flickering light of the broken law device. The code of Seraph had ruled for centuries. But something was changing. The human had done the impossible. He had broken the law, simply by being himself. And from that moment, the power balance between species would never be the same again. The Seraph cruiser drifted silently above the glowing rings of the planet below. From the observation deck, the stars looked close enough to touch, sharp points of light reflected across the crystal floor. Kayla stood near the edge, her long metallic robe flowing like liquid silver. She watched the stars, but spoke to someone behind her. You know, she said softly, in all my life, I have never seen the law fail. Elias Ward leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. Maybe it's time it did. Kalith turned her head slightly. You speak boldly for someone who should have been erased by it. I've seen laws used to break people before, he said. Doesn't matter which planet you're from. It's always the same story. A faint smile crossed her lips. You speak like one who has seen war. He nodded once. I have. She walked closer, her silver eyes reflecting his image. Perhaps that explains why the law cannot hold you. You fight even against things that cannot be fought. Elias gave a small shrug. Where I come from, we don't believe in surrender. Kalith studied him silently. The chamber was quiet except for the low hum of the ship's engines. You're strange, she said finally. You act as if we are equals. He met her gaze. Are we not? The question lingered like static in the air. For a long moment, Kalith didn't answer. Then she turned away, walking toward a small control panel. My sister Vera believes in domination, she said. She thinks power must be taken. I have always believed power should be understood. She pressed a button, and the wall opened, revealing a wide balcony facing the planet's surface. Warm light spilled in, washing over her face. Look, she said, this world bends to our will. We built cities that float, laws that decide who breathes and who doesn't. And yet, one human from a dying ship changed everything. Elias stepped beside her, watching the golden world below. You think your power's real because it's written into a system, he said quietly. But power's real only when it protects, not one owns. Caliph turned him again, her expression unreadable. You speak as if you would teach us morality. I'm not teaching, he said, just telling the truth. There was something in his voice that made her chest tighten, something she couldn't name. She looked away quickly. You risk much speaking like that, she whispered. If Vera hears, she'll destroy you. I've survived worse, Elias said. Her eyes softened for just a second. You don't understand. Human. My sister doesn't destroy out of anger. She does it to make a point, to remind others that her will is law. Then maybe it's time someone reminded her she's not a god. Kayla stared at him, truly stared, as if seeing something alien for the first time. You defy everything we are, she said softly. And yet, I can't stop thinking about what that means. She stepped closer, so close that he could see the faint patterns glowing beneath her skin. Not tattoos, but living energy veins. You are a paradox, she whispered. Weak by our standards. Yet your presence disturbs the law itself. The code rejects you, and I cannot decide whether to fear you or to keep you near. Elias didn't move. Maybe you don't have to decide yet. Her breath caught just slightly, and then she stepped back, regaining her composure. You should rest, she said coldly, though her tone wasn't truly cold. Your quarters are yours until I say otherwise. He raised an eyebrow. Quarters? Not a cell? Caliph gave him a faint smile. You are still claimed property, technically, but I am revising the definition. Later that night, Lyra crept through the ship's lower decks, her hood drawn low. The servants whispered that the human had been spared, that Caliph had taken an interest in him. That news brought both relief and fear. She found an old friend among the staff, a kind mechanic named Roan, who once served her mother. I need access to the holding bay, she whispered. Roan frowned. You can't be thinking of what I think you are. I can't leave him here, Lyra said. He saved me. Now he's trapped because of me. Roan sighed, looking at her glowing eyes. The sisters will kill you if they catch you. Then I won't get caught. He hesitated, then handed her a small access chip. You can get this from me. She nodded gratefully. Thank you. In her royal chamber above, Vera stood before a holographic projection of alien council members, high lords of Serath Prime. The law's rejection cannot be ignored, one of them said. You risk breaking the sacred code. Vera's eyes narrowed. The code bends to power, not the other way around. Then explain the human, the voice replied. He survived the binding. He defied the law. Vera's jaw tightened. Then we will rewrite the law. The transmission ended. The room fell silent except for her breathing. She turned toward the viewing glass, her reflection sharp and cold. You think you can break my world, human? She whispered. Then I'll make you a symbol of submission. Meanwhile, in his temporary quarters, Elias sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the alien stars. His mind was restless. He could feel something shifting, not just in the ship, but in the way Caliph had looked at him. The air shimmered faintly, and the door slid open. Lyra stepped in quietly, her eyes wide with urgency. Elias, she whispered, we have to go. Now. He turned, startled. Lyra, how did you? No time. Vera's council wants to use you as proof the law still stands. They plan to rebind you tomorrow. He frowned. Then we leave tonight. She nodded, her hand shaking as she passed him the access chip. Follow me. I know a way. But before they could move, the lights dimmed. A soft, melodic voice echoed through the intercom. Leaving so soon, human? Kalitha's voice. The door sealed automatically. Lyra froze. Elias stepped protectively in front of her as Caliph entered, calm but unreadable. I warned you, she said softly, looking at Lyra. Defiance runs in our blood. Her gaze moved to Elias. And humans, they spread it like fire. She walked closer, stopping just a few steps away. Now tell me, Elias Ward, she whispered, her eyes locking on his. Will you burn with me or against me? The alien capital city shimmered under twin suns, its towers of glass and gold rising like silent witnesses to ancient power. Ethan followed the royal guards through wide marble halls lined with alien warriors, all bowing their heads to the elder sisters, Lysara and Velra of House Athenare. Ethan walked between them, still unsure why he was being escorted like a prize. His human clothes were torn from the battle that had saved the younger sister, Elira. She was now resting in the royal healing chamber, alive only because Ethan had thrown himself between her and a wild beast with venom claws. But now, something felt wrong. The air was tense, too quiet. The sisters walked ahead gracefully, their long dresses glowing faintly, symbols of power shifting on the fabric like living light. Lysara, the eldest, kept glancing back at Ethan, not with gratitude, but with ownership. Velra's golden eyes followed her elder sister, her expression calm, yet dangerous. When they reached the grand chamber, the guards stopped and struck their spears on the floor. A voice echoed through the hall. By the law of claim, we gather to honor the one who saved royal blood. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? He asked quietly. Velra turned to him. It means, human, that your act of bravery has bound you to us, by the ancient law of our people. He looked confused. Bound me? I just saved her life. I didn't ask for her. Lysara raised a hand, cutting him off. You misunderstand, human, on our world. Saving a royal life means surrendering yours to the family you saved. You now belong to House Athenare. Ethan froze. Belong? Lysara stepped closer. She was tall, elegant, her silver skin shimmering under the hall's light. It is an honor, human. Few ever stand where you are now. You will serve and live as one of us. Velra's lips curved slightly. Sister, that law was written thousands of years ago, in times of war. It was meant to protect royal bloodlines, not to enslave rescuers. Lysara's eyes flashed. You question the law? I question you, Velra replied coldly. Tension filled the room. The sisters stared at each other, their bond of blood strained by pride and power. Ethan could feel the invisible energy humming in the air, their emotions almost tangible. Then Elira's voice broke the silence. Stop. Everyone turned. The younger sister entered, still weak but alive, her white gown glowing softly. Her eyes locked on Ethan. He saved me, not because of the law, not because of duty. He saved me because he cared. No one owns that. Lysara's voice was sharp. You speak like a child who doesn't understand our heritage. I understand enough. Elira shot back. You think saving lives means claiming them. That's not honor, Lysara. That's greed. Lysara's expression turned icy. Our ancestors built this empire on that law. Without it, chaos would rule. Ethan finally spoke. Maybe that's the problem. You call it honor, but it's just control. Where I come from, saving someone means giving them freedom, not taking away. The hall went silent again. Velra watched him quietly, her expression unreadable. Elira smiled faintly, hope in her eyes. But Lysara's anger grew. She stepped forward and touched Ethan's chest, and a glowing mark flared under her palm, a burning sigil. He gasped in pain, stumbling back as golden light spread across his skin. You are marked, Lysara declared coldly. From this moment, by law, you are mine. Guards stepped forward, surrounding Ethan. Elira screamed and rushed forward, but Velra grabbed her arm. No, wait. Ethan's hands trembled. The mark pulsed with alien energy, connecting him to Lysara's will. He could feel her thoughts brushing against his, commanding, cold, absolute. But something unexpected happened. The mark flickered, then dimmed. Lysara frowned. What? Velra's eyes widened slightly. He's resisting. Ethan gritted his teeth, his voice strained. I don't belong to anyone. The mark cracked like glass. The energy shattered, sending a burst of light through the hall. Guards stumbled back. Lysara fell to one knee, her control broken. Everyone stood frozen. Even Velra looked surprised. Lysara's voice trembled. Impossible! No human could resist a royal mark. Ethan breathed heavily, the mark fading from his chest. Guess I'm not just any human. Velra took a slow step forward, eyes gleaming. Interesting. Perhaps the law isn't as absolute as we thought. Elira ran to Ethan's side, helping him stand. "You broke it," she whispered, amazed. He smiled faintly. "Maybe it's time someone did." Lasara stood, furious yet shaken. She looked at Ethan, not as property, but as something she couldn't understand, something dangerous. "This isn't over, human," she hissed. "You defy our law, you defy me." Ethan met her gaze calmly. "Then maybe your law needs a change." The hall trembled with silence. For the first time in generations, an alien law had been broken by a human, and somewhere deep within, the Empire itself began to shift. The news of what Ethan did spread like wildfire through the alien empire. A human, a fragile outsider, had broken the sacred law of claim, something no alien, no royal, had ever done before. In the capital's shining towers, nobles whispered his name like it was a storm. Some called him a curse. Others called him a legend. But for Lasara, the eldest sister, it was a wound or pride that burned deeper than any scar. She stood before great council, her long silver robes shimmering like blades of light. Around her sat the elders, ancient aliens whose eyes glowed like distant suns. "The human must be punished," Lasara declared coldly. "He broke sacred law. He humiliated our royal line in front of the court." One of the elders, his voice deep and calm, replied, "And yet the mark broke on its own. That means the law itself may no longer hold power. The universe changes, Lasara. Perhaps this is a sign." Lasara's hand tightened on her staff. "A sign of weakness. We cannot let this outsider make a mockery of our traditions." But another voice spoke, softer, thoughtful. It was Velra. "Perhaps it is time to ask why the law failed. Maybe it was never right." The council fell silent. Lasara turned to her sister sharply. "You dare side with him?" Velra's golden eyes met hers. "I side with reason. Ethan saved Elira out of compassion, not ambition. And when you marked him, he fought for freedom. Isn't that what our people claim to value?" Lasara's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Freedom? You call rebellion freedom? You've grown soft. Velra, you forget that power keeps peace." Velra answered quietly, "And pride destroys it." The argument was cut short by a sudden noise, distant, echoing through the marble halls. A human voice. "Let me through." The council doors burst open, and Ethan entered with Elira beside him. Guards tried to stop them, but Elira's royal status forced them aside. The room fell silent. Ethan stepped forward, calm but determined. "You keep talking about me like I'm not here. But if I'm accused, then I have the right to speak." Lasara's voice dripped with venom. "You have no rights here, human." Elira's voice cut through her words. "He does now. I gave him royal protection. If you want him punished, you'll have to go through me." The entire council gasped. Even Velra's eyes widened slightly. Lasara stared at her youngest sister in disbelief. "You would defy me for a human?" Elira lifted her chin. "For someone who saved my life?" "Yes." Lasara's fury trembled beneath her calm face. "Then you forced my hand." The elder who presided over the council raised his hand for silence. "Enough. The matter will be settled by trial of truth." Vera looked sharply at him. "That ancient right hasn't been used in centuries." "It will be now," the elder said gravely. "The law has been broken. Only the spirits of justice can decide who is right." Ethan frowned. "What kind of trial?" Lasara smiled darkly. "A trial of strength and spirit. If the law favors you, you will live. If not, it will take your life." Elira gasped. "That's murder." But Velra placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "No, that's tradition. And if he must face it, then we will prepare him." That night, Ethan stood in the royal courtyard under a glowing moon. The stars above looked different from Earth, closer, sharper, like 1,000 eyes watching him. Elira walked beside him quietly. "You shouldn't have come here, Ethan. Lasara won't stop until she wins." He smiled faintly. "Yeah, I've noticed she doesn't like losing." Elira looked up at him, her silver hair moving softly in the wind. "You could still run. I could help you escape the city." Ethan shook his head. "If I run, it proves her right, that humans are weak. I won't let her control me or this law anymore. Velra stepped out of the shadows, her armor gleaming gold under the starlight. Then you'll need to be ready for what's coming. She handed him a strange weapon, a curved blade made of shimmering energy. The trial will test more than strength. It will test your will. The arena itself bends your spirit. If you lose focus, it will consume you. Ethan looked down at the blade, then up at Velra. Why are you helping me? Velra's voice softened. Because you remind me of what our people used to be before we buried our hearts under laws. He nodded slowly. Then I'll fight, not just for me, but for Elira and maybe for your people too. Velra gave a faint smile. Then fight, well, human. As she walked away, Elira touched Ethan's arm gently. Be careful. The trial of truth isn't fair. It's meant to destroy those who defy power. Ethan looked toward the horizon where the twin suns were beginning to rise. Then I guess it's time power learns what truth really looks like. Far above, in her dark chamber, Lasara watched the training grounds through a holographic screen. Her eyes burned with hatred and something else. Fear. For the first time in her life, she didn't understand her enemy. This human, she whispered, her voice cold as ice. He will break more than law. He will break the world itself. The next morning, the sky above the alien capital was painted gold and violet as the twin suns rose. Every corner of the Empire watched a live broadcast of a moment that had not happened in thousands of years. The trial of truth. A massive arena had been built on top of the crystal cliffs overlooking the sea. Its floor shimmered like liquid light, and ancient runes glowed beneath the surface. In the center stood Ethan, a lone human, and unarmed except for the shimmering blade Velra had given him. Above him, thousands of alien nobles filled the stands, whispering in disbelief. A human challenger, against the law itself. At the royal platform, Lasara sat on her high throne, wearing armor made of radiant silver. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet rage. Elira stood beside her, hands trembling, while Velra watched silently, expression unreadable. When the trumpet sounded, the Grand Elder rose and spoke. The law of claim has been broken. By our custom, the spirits of justice shall judge the one who defied it. If he is truthful of heart, he will survive. If his spirit is false, the law will devour him. The crowd fell silent. Ethan looked around a glowing arena and muttered under his breath, Guess I'm not getting a lawyer for this one. Suddenly, the floor beneath him rippled, and from the light, a creature began to form, a massive being made of energy and shadow. Its eyes were fire, its voice a thunder that shook the air. I am the law, it said, words echoing in Ethan's head. Why do you resist what was written by your betters? Ethan gripped his blade. Because a law that takes freedom isn't justice. It's fear-wearing crown. The creature's roar shook the stands. Then show your truth, human. The battle began. The creature moved like a storm, striking with waves of light and sound. Ethan rolled aside, his blade clashing with pure energy, sparks flying across the glowing floor. Each strike sent pain through his arm, but he refused to fall. In the royal box, Elira watched with tears in her eyes. He's just human. He can't win this. Velra's voice was calm, though her eyes were tight with worry. The trial doesn't measure strength. It measures heart. If he holds to what he believes, he might survive. Lasara's cold smile didn't fade. Or he will prove what I already know, that humans are weak. Back in the arena, Ethan fell hard as the creature's strike threw him across the glowing floor. Pain shot through his ribs. He gasped, his vision blurring, but a voice echoed inside him. Elira's voice. You saved me because you cared. No one owns that. He pushed himself up, trembling but determined. You think strength comes from power? He shouted. You're wrong. It comes from doing what's right, no matter how scared you are. The arena glowed brighter. The runes pulsed. The creature roared again, its form flickering like it was weakening. Lasara stood up sharply. No, this cannot be. She reached out to her wrist console, hidden under her sleeve. With a silent command, energy fields around the arena shifted. The light turned crimson. The creature grew stronger, fed by the false command she sent through the system. Velra noticed. You're tampering with the trial, she shouted. Lysara ignored her. He broke our law. He will not walk out alive. Velra grabbed her arm. If he dies, your rule dies with him. The people will see you for what you are. Lysara hissed. Then I'll destroy them too if I must. Below, Ethan was struggling to stay on his feet. The creature loomed over him, its claws glowing with fire. You cannot fight fate, it thundered. But Ethan lifted his blade one last time. Then I'll make my own fate. He charged, diving straight into the light. The blade cut through the creature's chest, and suddenly everything froze. The arena turned white. The sound stopped. For a moment, Ethan saw not the creature, but flashes of alien history. The rise of the law, the blood it had spilled, the people it had bound. He saw Lysara as a child, learning to fear failure, learning to worship rules instead of truth. And then the light exploded. The creature let out one final roar and vanished, turning into thousands of glowing fragments that floated into the sky. When the brightness faded, Ethan was still standing, barely. The runes beneath him were no longer red. They were gold. Velra whispered in awe. He passed. Elira ran forward, her tears shining in the light. Ethan! She threw her arms around him as the crowd began to cheer, not out of fear, but out of shock and admiration. Lysara stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. No, this is impossible. The Grand Elder spoke solemnly. The law claim has been judged false. The human spirit has rewritten the truth. From this day, no one shall own another's life. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some cheering, some shouting, some crying. The Empire had changed in a single moment. Lysara turned away, her voice trembling with hatred. You think this is victory, human? You've destroyed centuries of order. You've started a war you cannot end. Ethan, still weak, looked up at her. Maybe that's what it takes to build something better. She glared at him one last time before leaving the chamber in silence. Velra looked at the sky, where golden fragments of light still floated like falling stars. He didn't just survive the trial, she said softly. He changed it. Elira smiled through her tears. He changed everything. The sun rose over the alien capital, painting the silver towers in shades of gold. The trial of truth was over, but the Empire was not at peace. Everywhere, people argued in the streets. Some celebrated the fall of the law claim. Others called Ethan a destroyer, a human who had broken sacred tradition. In the royal palace, tension filled every hall. Guards whispered. Servants avoided eye contact. Because one truth spread faster than light. Lysara had vanished. Velra and Elira stood together in the council chamber, watching the Empire's messages appear on the floating screens. Rebellion was rising in the outer cities. Old lords refused to accept the new judgment. Elira turned to Velra, worry in her eyes. She's going to do something. I can feel it. Velra nodded slowly. Lysara has always believed power is the only truth. If she can't rule by law, she'll rule by fear. At that same moment, far beneath the palace, in the dark chambers of the old royal vault, Lysara stood before a massive crystal core pulsing with energy. The heart of the law. Her face was pale, her eyes burning with cold determination. They would throw away everything our ancestors built for a human, she whispered. Then I'll show them what happens when chaos rules. She placed her hand on the crystal. Energy crackled around her, red and violent. If the law won't obey me, I'll rewrite it myself. The crystal screamed like it was alive. The skies outside the city darkened. Bolts of red lightning cracked through the clouds. Up in the palace, alarms echoed through the halls. Guards ran in panic. Velra looked out the window and gasped. The heart, it's active. She's fusing herself with the law. Ethan stepped into the room, still weak from the trial but determined. What happens if she does that? Velra's voice was grim. Then she becomes the law itself. Every mind, every soul will be hers to command. Elira grabbed Ethan's arm. You can't fight her. She's too strong now. He met her eyes. I'm not here to fight her. I'm here to end this. Velra handed him a glowing shard, the last fragment of the law that had broken during the trial. Take this. It carries your truth. If you reach the heart before she fully merges, it might break her connection. Ethan nodded. Then let's finish it. The lower palace was a nightmare of collapsing halls and blinding light. Ethan ran through smoke and falling stone as alarms blared. Elira and Velra followed close behind, fighting off waves of energy guards reprogrammed by Lasara's power. Finally, they reached the vault. The air shimmered with red light. Lasara stood at the center, her body half fused with the crystal. Her hair floated like flame, her eyes glowing with unnatural fire. "You came," she said softly. "Good. I wanted you to see what true power looks like." Ethan stepped forward. "Power isn't truth. You proved that when you lost a trial." Lasara smiled sadly. "You think you change us? You think one act of defiance can erase centuries of order? You know nothing of balance." Energy surged around her, throwing Elira and Velra back. Ethan barely held his ground. "You call yourself free," Lasara hissed, "but freedom is chaos. Freedom destroys. I will protect my people, even if I must rule them through fear." Ethan lifted the glowing shard. "Then you'll never understand what it means to live." He threw the shard toward the crystal. It struck the core, and for an instant golden light clashed with red. The air trembled. Lasara screamed, her voice breaking between fury and pain. "No, you can't." The crystal exploded in a storm of energy. Ethan shielded his face as the shockwave hit. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. Then a voice whispered in his mind. "Ethan." It was Lasara's voice, but softened now, almost human. "I want to protect them. I didn't know another way." Ethan's eyes filled with sadness. "Then let go." The red light faded. Lasara's form slowly dissolved into sparks that floated upward, joining the golden glow spreading across the sky. The clouds cleared. The city stopped trembling. When the light faded, the heart of the law was gone. In its place, only silence remained. Later, as dawn returned, Ethan stood with Elira and Velra on the palace balcony, overlooking a peaceful horizon. Velra's voice was quiet. "The law is gone. For the first time in our history, our people are truly free." Ethan nodded slowly. "Freedom isn't easy, but it's worth it." Elira turned to him, her eyes soft and full of emotion. "You gave us a future. Ethan, you gave me one." He smiled faintly. "I just did what anyone should do." Velra chuckled gently. "You really are a strange creature. Human." He looked at them both and said quietly, "Maybe now your people will see that strength doesn't come from rules. It comes from compassion." They stood in silence for a while, watching as the first sunlight touched the distant towers. The Empire was beginning anew, and far above, in the sky where the light from the shattered heart still shimmered faintly, a soft whisper echoed Lasara's final words. "Protect them better than I did." Ethan looked up and whispered back, "I will." The suns rose higher, their light spreading across the world. The empire of Athenare had fallen, but something far greater had been born. Hope.